Let's say it happens right now. You're scrolling through your phone, half watching some show, and suddenly every news channel cuts to the same thing. People eating people. Not a riot, not a terror attack. The actual collapse of the social contract, happening in real time across multiple cities. Your phone starts lighting up with texts, your neighbors screaming in the hallway, car alarms are going off outside in a symphony of panic. Here's the question most people get wrong. What do you do in the first 60 seconds? Most people think the answer is, grab my bug-out bag and get the hell out. Sounds reasonable, sounds tactical. Here's the problem. That confidence you're feeling right now, that instinct to move, that's exactly what kills 70% of people in the first 6 hours. Not zombies, not bites. The decision to act before you know what you're acting on. Let me put this in perspective. During the first 90 minutes of any major disaster, emergency services receive more calls than they get in an average week. The roads don't just get congested, they become parking lots with humans trapped between metal and chaos. You're not the protagonist. You don't have plot armor. You're one of 7 million people in a metropolitan area who just made the exact same decision at the exact same second. And most of you are about to die because you confused action with survival. If you're getting value from this kind of tactical breakdown, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're building a community that thinks harder about survival than Hollywood does about scripts. You'll need it when shit gets real. All right, let's set the parameters so we're working with the same scenario. This is a Romero-style outbreak. Slow-moving zombies, transmission through bites and fluid contact. The recently dead are reanimating, and it's spreading faster than information can travel. You're in a major US city, population over 2 million. You live in a mid-rise apartment building, 5th floor, 1 bedroom. You've got a quarter tank of gas in your car, about 3 days of food in your pantry, and exactly the level of preparation that most people have, which is to say, jack shit for this scenario. The timeline starts now. It's 6:47 p.m. on a weekday. You've got maybe 8 hours before the power grid starts browning out. You've got maybe 12 hours before first responders stop responding. You've got maybe 18 hours before water pressure drops citywide. And you've got exactly 24 hours to make the decisions that determine whether you see sunrise on day 2. Your goal isn't to escape the city. Your goal is to survive until you understand what escape actually means. Here's what you don't have. You don't have a safe house outside the city. You don't have a weapons cache. You don't have a network of prepared friends with vehicles and fuel. You don't have military training. What you have is a functioning brain, the ability to control panic, and the next 1,000 words of tactical reality I'm about to give you. Mistake number 1, and it's the big one, leaving your apartment in the first 2 hours. I know what you're thinking, but I need to get out before the roads clog. That's the trap. Here's what most people don't realize. In the first 90 minutes of a major crisis, you have almost no actionable intelligence. You don't know the infection rate. You don't know the geographic spread. You don't know if this is 3 city blocks or 300 miles. You don't know if it's airborne or fluid only. And without that information, every decision you make is a guess that could get you killed. Let's walk through what happens if you bolt. You grab your keys, maybe stuff some clothes in a bag, and you hit the stairwell. Sounds fine until you realize that every other person in your building had the same idea. Stairwells amplify sound. Footfalls echo. Panic spreads faster than any virus. By the time you reach the lobby, you're part of a human current that's making decisions collectively now, not individually. Someone sees something. Someone screams. The current pushes toward an exit. You don't choose anymore. Momentum chooses for you. Now you're in the parking garage or on the street. You get to your car. If you're lucky, you get in. If you're not, someone decides they need your car more than you do. And civilization lasted about 95 minutes. But let's say you make it. You start the engine. You pull out. And you join thousands of other people doing the exact same thing, all trying to funnel through the same arterial roads that can't handle rush hour on a normal Tuesday. Here's the math. Your car holds maybe 15 gallons. You're getting maybe 3 miles per gallon in stop-and-go panic traffic. That's 45 miles maximum before you're on foot. And here's the ugly part. You're not moving 3 miles per hour. In the first major evacuation surge, you're moving 0.2 miles per hour. Do that math. That's 6 hours to move 1 mile. Your fuel runs out before you clear city limits. Now you're on foot, in the dark, surrounded by thousands of other people who also ran out of gas, in a situation where everyone is a potential vector, and no one knows who's infected yet. The fix is boring, methodical, and keeps you alive. You stay in your apartment for the first 4 to 6 hours. You lock your door. You cover your peephole from the inside so light doesn't leak into the hallway. You turn off every light that faces the street. You do not answer your door for neighbors. You do not go into the hallway to see what's happening. You become invisible while you gather intelligence. Here's what you do instead of running. You monitor. Multiple news sources, social media, emergency broadcasts. You're looking for patterns. Where did it start? What direction is it moving? Are authorities containing it or evacuating? Are hospitals still accepting patients or are they overrun? You're building a threat map in your head. You're watching the timestamp on posts. If social media from the western suburbs went dark 30 minutes ago, but the eastern districts are still posting, you know the vector direction. You're not panicking. You're processing. Mistake number 2, trusting that help is coming. Let me be real for a minute. Emergency services are designed for localized disasters, a building fire, a multi-car accident, an active shooter in one location. They're not designed for simultaneous, distributed, exponentially spreading biological threats. The average metro EMS system has maybe 200 ambulances for 2 million people. When every neighborhood has casualties at the same time, the math doesn't work. When paramedics start getting bitten, the system doesn't just strain, it collapses. Here's what happens to emergency response in the first 6 hours. Police get pulled from patrol to protect critical infrastructure. Fire departments stop responding to anything that isn't a 3-alarm blaze. Hospitals implement lockdown protocols and stop accepting walk-ins. The 911 system crashes under call volume. Dispatchers stop answering because there's nothing to dispatch. You call for help and you get a busy signal, or you get a recording telling you to shelter in place, or you get nothing at all. The practical takeaway: the help you're counting on doesn't exist after hour 4. That evacuation route you're imagining, the one where emergency services are directing traffic and providing safe corridors, that's a fantasy. The reality is you're alone with whatever decisions you make. And the sooner you accept that, the better decisions you'll make. Mistake number 3, prioritizing weapons over water. Every zombie movie has taught you that you need a gun, a bat, a blade, something to fight with. And yeah, eventually you will. But on day 1, water pressure is already dropping by hour 8 as pumping stations lose power or operators abandon posts. By hour 12, when you turn your tap, you get a sputter and nothing else. You just went from 3 days of survival to about 18 hours, and that bat in your hand doesn't fix dehydration. Here's the unglamorous day 1 priority list. Fill every container you have with water. Bathtub, pots, empty soda bottles, that decorative vase you never use. You're stockpiling the most critical resource while infrastructure still functions. You're filling ice cube trays and sticking them in the freezer to keep food cold when power dies. You're thinking in terms of biological necessity, not action hero aesthetics. Then you're doing a food inventory, not a panic-eat-everything inventory. A cold calculation of calories per day, perishables first, non-perishables rationed. You're moving everything from the fridge to one shelf, so when power dies you open it once, grab what you need, and seal it again to preserve cold. You're not cooking anything that creates heavy smells that drift into hallways. You're eating quietly in darkness, like the invisible apartment resident you need to be. Mistake number 4, and this one's subtle, maintaining your routine. Your brain is trying to normalize an abnormal situation. It wants you to believe this is temporary, that tomorrow you'll go to work, that this is just a weird Tuesday that'll blow over. That psychological defense mechanism is going to get you killed. Here's what routine does. It creates predictable patterns. You check your phone at the same times. You go to the window to look out at the same intervals. You turn on lights without thinking. You walk across creaky floorboards because that's the path you always take. Every predictable action is a signal to anything or anyone paying attention. You're advertising that someone's home, someone's alive, someone's a resource. The fix. You break every pattern. You move in darkness using the furniture placements you already know by memory. You check your phone with the brightness on minimum, under a blanket. You stay away from windows during daylight. You don't flush the toilet unless absolutely necessary, because the sound carries through pipes to every apartment in your stack. You become nocturnal if needed. You adapt to the new reality faster than the threat adapts to you. Mistake number 5. Engaging with neighbors. I know how that sounds, but let's think through what happens when you open your door to help Mrs. Patterson from 5C, who's knocking and crying and saying her husband's been bitten and she doesn't know what to do. Your instinct is human. Your instinct is decent. Your instinct gets you infected or worse. Here's the brutal calculus of day 1. You don't know who's infected. You don't know the incubation period. You don't know if it's fluid-borne only or if it's evolving. Every person you interact with is a potential vector. Every act of kindness is a calculated risk, and on day 1 you don't have enough information to calculate properly. The people who survive day 1 aren't the strongest or the most armed. They're the ones who could sit in silence while neighbors screamed in the hallway. They're the ones who could listen to someone begging for help on the other side of a locked door and choose isolation over compassion. That's not a moral judgment. That's a survival assessment. Now let's say you made it through the night. It's hour 20. The sun's coming up on day 2. The sounds from outside have changed. Less screaming, more moaning, more shuffling. The power's been out for 6 hours. Your phone's at 40% battery. You've been monitoring everything you can and you've got a clearer picture now. This isn't contained. This isn't stopping. The authorities aren't coming because the authorities are part of the chaos now. This is your decision point. Do you stay or do you move? And here's what separates survivors from corpses. Survivors don't move until they have a destination that's better than their current position and a route that's survivable. You don't leave your apartment to figure it out. You leave because you've identified a specific location with specific advantages. You've mapped 3 routes to get there with contingencies, and you've watched the pattern of movement outside long enough to know when and how to move invisibly. Most people fail day 1 because they made one of those 5 mistakes in the first 4 hours. They moved too fast. They trusted help that wasn't coming. They prioritized wrong. They maintained patterns. They opened doors. And by the time they realized their mistake, they were in a position where every option was worse than the last. So let's assess. Would you survive day 1? If you stayed in your apartment, gathered intelligence, secured water, maintained light and sound discipline, and didn't engage with the chaos, your survival probability is about 7 out of 10. Those are good odds for day 1. You've got resources, you've got shelter, you've got information. The 3 out of 10 that don't make it. Random chance. A neighbor who breaks down your door. A fire in the building you can't escape. Structural collapse. Things you can't control. If you bolted in the first 2 hours, your survival probability drops to about 2 out of 10. You're on foot in a collapsing city, low on resources, high on exposure, surrounded by vectors and other desperate people. The 8 out of 10 who don't make it die from exposure, dehydration, violence from other survivors, or infection from contact in close quarters. The 2 who survive do it through luck, not skill. The practical advice is simple. You stay through the first night unless your building is actively on fire or flooding. You earn information by being patient. You preserve resources by being disciplined. You maintain advantage by being invisible. Day 1 isn't about escaping. It's about surviving long enough to understand what you're escaping to. All right, your turn. Would you have stayed in your apartment or would you have run? Would you have opened the door when your neighbor knocked? Would you have trusted that help was coming? Would you have filled the bathtub or grabbed the baseball bat first? Be honest with yourself. No plot armor, no protagonist syndrome, just honest assessment of what you'd actually do when the screaming starts and your phone won't stop buzzing. Drop your day 1 strategy in the comments. Tell me where you'd fail. Tell me what I got wrong. Tell me what critical mistake I didn't cover that would get you killed in the first 12 hours. This channel is built on tactical debate, not fantasy. If you've got a better plan, I want to hear it. And if you're realizing you'd be dead by hour 6, subscribe so you can learn how to make it to day 2. Because day 1 is just the filter. The real survival starts when the sun comes up, and you realize everyone who made it through is now competing for the same limited resources in a city full of the dead.